Welcome back to Real Men Talk. Today, we're going to be talking about the upcoming election on November 8th, the importance of voting. We're going to talk about some of the different things that we're going to be voting for here in Missouri, and where you can find your information if you're in a different state, how you can find that information, and why it's important. Let's get with it on Real Men Talk.
Welcome to Real Men Talk, discussing the tough issues facing men and their families every day. Here are your hosts.
All right, guys, welcome back to Real Men Talk. I am here with none other than Kyler Sal. What's up, Kyler?
Hey, everybody.
Dude, it's always a pleasure to have you on here. I love it.
Oh, it's the best thing. It's the best part of my week.
I'm glad it is, because I really enjoy having you on here. So we're going to jump right into this. So today we're going to be discussing some, we have this upcoming election on November 8th. I'm going to be real honest with you. I feel right now that this may be the most crucial election that we've had in a very long time. And I know we're not voting for a presidency. We're not voting, but the majority in the House and the Senate is crucial. Mm-hmm. To all the things that are happening in America right now, all the political bull crap that is happening, that is just bombarded in our schools and in the media and all these different things. It is like we have to have a change.
We've got to
go ahead.
We got to have voices. I mean, every small thing, even now, you're saying that this election is the most important election, but really every election is the most important election. But we are slowly losing the importance of what the election means. But I mean, you're right. We got some good amendments we're trying to push through, or that people are trying to push through, that could change and alter and lay the foundation for changes later on. But we've got to find the importance again of voting, the importance of having our voice, the importance of sitting out there and doing something about something, instead of sitting down on our couches and waiting for somebody else to take the lead.
That's right. And it's sad, the amount of Christians that don't get out and vote. They don't get out and and I know we've done like this whole podcast on politics. We had one with Mark Fawn. If you've not listened to that one, if you're listening to this one and you've not listened to the one with Mark Fawn, you should go back and listen to it. Mark is brilliant and he does a fantastic job. And it's amazing, the history behind America and all that stuff. That's good. But the one thing that we're always taught, the two things you never talk about is politics and religion. And it's sad, because those two things are the things that should be talked about more than anything else. And they are crucial. And I think that Satan designed that way, because he didn't want us to talk about it. He didn't want us to concentrate on those. We'll just be quiet. We'll just kind of let whatever happens. And it's
to hear, if it's God's will, it'll happen. Okay. Yeah. Yes. Faith without works is dead. Okay. I'm just going to bring it back to that. If you're not going to get up and you're not going to try to do anything, or to have the voice, or to sit there and pray and meditate on the word and to figure out what you should do, then the Lord can ultimately take care of it. But if his people aren't behind him, what's the point of him taking care of it?
That's exactly right. It's like the metaphor, the story about the guy in the flood. I don't know if you've ever heard this before, but this guy, he's in this flood, and a boat comes by and it's like, hey, get in. He's like, no, God's going to save me. God's going to save me. Then, or a car comes by. Then the flood. He gets up to like the second level of his house, and the boat comes by. He's like, oh, get in. He's like, no, God's going to save me. And then he gets up to the top. He's sitting on his roof, and a helicopter comes in. He's like, oh, get in the helicopter. He's like, no, God's going to save me. Well, then he drowns, and he gets to heaven. And he's like, God, why didn't you save me? He's like, dude, I sent you a car. I sent you a boat and a helicopter. You didn't get in. Yeah. And that's kind of where we're at. We're like, oh, what's happening in America? what's going on? And yet the entire time we're just sitting back and be like, whatever happens. God's like, hey, get out and do something. I've got these avenues for you to do. I've set America up like this for a reason. It is ran by the people, and the people that hold moral value don't do anything about it. The people who are immoral will take over.
Exactly.
I've come to this conclusion, and I think that we have vitally gotten away from this point, and really I've never thought about it this way, and I don't think that there are many people who do. Voting, politics, when we begin to push moral ethics into our politics and into the policies that dictate what we can and can't do, what we can and can't say, all that good stuff. Us as Christian men getting out and voting is a form of evangelism.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about being right. It's not about being part of the right party. It's not about being a Christian nationalist, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. That term ticks me off. Anyways, it's not about being a Christian nationalist. It's not about being MAGA. It's not about being a Trump supporter. It's about being able to have a voice to talk about what is truth. Because if we don't talk about what is truth, if we don't grasp that concept, then what is not truth will be pushed down our throats if we're not pushing back. It's like it's the same. And people will probably disagree with me. This is my foreign politics push here, since we're talking about politics anyways. If we're not there, especially when it comes to like these people who hate America, like Iraq and Iran, and God bless all of our soldiers who lost their lives, and all of our soldiers that went over there and they fought for our freedom and for freedom for this world. Mm-hmm. But if we're not there, they're going to be here. If we don't constantly keep them in check, they are going to find ways to be here and causing disruption. I know a lot of people would disagree with me on that, but it's truth. If you don't, it's the same way with evil. It's the same way if spiritually, if you're not pushing against the darkness, mm-hmm. then you're losing. That like there is no neutral ground there. I always say neutrality is a lie. And people want to fall back on that. They want to fall back on again, what God will take care of things, or the Romans 15 where you're supposed to adhere to your government and stuff like that. But this is. And I know I'm going on a tangent. I'm sorry, Kyler, but
go for it. You're doing great.
This is my thing when it comes to that. When people talk about Romans 15, they're like, you're supposed to adhere to the government. God set America up that it is ran by the people. Mm-hmm. The people are the ones who run this country. We appoint senators, we appoint congressmen, we appoint governors, we appoint the president. We appoint them to be a voice for us. And therefore, if we sit back, we are not adhering to the Romans 15. We're not doing our part because we are the governing factor of this nation, the people. And I hope I have that right. I think it's Romans 15. If not, I'll check it later, whatever. But you guys get my point. And so I say all this stuff to say because it is so vitally important for us, especially as men, as leaders of our homes, of our communities, of our churches, to be heavily involved in the politics, even if you can't run for Congress, if you can't run for Senate, if you can't run for presidency, run for your local school board, run for your local city council. church council, wherever you can fit into, wherever you can slide your godly values into, do it.
Right. But that also doesn't mean in that, do not run for an office if you are not going to express your voice and you are not going to stand firm on your beliefs. I mean, I'm looking at this research. It was the Pew Research Center. It said that of all registered voters back in 2014, so I mean, this has been a little bit ago. It was updated back in 2016, a little bit more. Only 36% of voters saw themselves as born again or classify themselves as born again evangelical Christians. If you're not going to put yourself in a leadership position and you're not going to do the work to keep your faith up and to stand up for the values of a Christian life, or just, I mean, good moral ethics, let's just call it that, good moral ethics, even if you're not going to, then do not put yourself in that position where you're going to lead other people. And that's what we try to do, is we put people on pedestals and we try to like, oh, they have really good ideas and they're this. Correct. That's great. But if you are not praying about every single measure on a ballot, if you're not praying about every single person that you elect into an office, just because we watch them on TV and just because they say a lot of good things does not mean that they are going to make a great person in office. You have to do your background with God, because God sees the inside, not the outside. He judges us by our heart and our spirit. He does not judge us by what's going to be thrown on TV. He's not going to judge us by what we can show and sell and who can support us. Just because the NRA supports you doesn't mean that you're going to be a great qualified candidate to go over gun rights.
Right.
But you need to make sure that you are doing exactly, and you're praying, and that you are meditating on all of this stuff. And if you're not going to be a godly male figure leader who's going to stick up for his beliefs, or he's going to cave into the first donation, then don't do it.
Right.
Sorry
Absolutely.
about that.
No, that's great. And dude, and you are spot on. Us as Christians, we have got to have a backbone. We have got to. We hold truth. The Bible, which we adhere to, which dictates our morality, is absolute truth. Regardless of what anybody else believes, what anybody else thinks, it is absolute truth. Therefore, to not push truth is not love.
No.
You cannot tell me that you love somebody and allow them to waller in sin and go to hell.
You can't.
No, you cannot convince me of that. That's not the way this works. And I was listening to this podcast the other day, and they were talking about, he kind of talked about politics, and he was talking about Paul and Silas. And of course, we all know the story about the earthquake that, they broke loose, the prisoner who, he was going to kill himself. Paul's like, stop, we're all here. Let's, and his entire family got saved. And this story is amazing. But when you go past this story, so when all the politicians and the leaders of that town and stuff found out that Paul was a Roman citizen, they come back to him and they're like, hey, why don't you just go ahead and leave? We're going to let you go. And Paul's like, nah, you owe me an apology, publicly.
Yeah.
You're not just going to wash me underneath here because you realize you screwed up.
Right.
No, you're not going to treat me like that. And so if you notice, Paul wasn't violent. Paul wasn't, he didn't, but he stood his ground. He knew the weight that he held, and he knew the truth that he was preaching, and he's like, no, absolutely not. You're going to apologize to me. Right. And to have that backbone, to go unapologetically before everybody, you don't owe anybody anything. The only person that we should ever worry about is Jesus Christ. And Jesus is telling us to get out and do our part.
Exactly. And I mean, people who have a backbone are not well liked. I mean, there are many people who I work with who do not like me because it's just not going to happen. I'm not going to cave to what you want me to do. I'm going to do what's best and what I think is the most ethically close to what I believe. And so if you aren't one of those, and that's not what society tells us to do, society says that if you are going to be a good leader, you need to be well liked. I mean, look at Facebook, look at Instagram. You literally like pictures. You literally like people's pages. It's all over the place. That you are there to be liked. Then most people are like, well, if they don't like me or this, it doesn't matter. Good leaders are not well liked. Good leaders are not going to be people who are always at the top of their game or in the polls or always the top ones or have the best approval ratings. They're not always those people. They're not the most sometimes not even the most qualified candidates, but they stick to their guns and they stick to what they know is right and they stick to their foundational beliefs and they stick to their backbone and they know exactly what they need to do.
That's right. True leadership is a lonely place.
Yeah.
One, not everybody can do it. Not everybody's built to lead the people that you're called to lead. So this operates both in a natural sense and a spiritual sense. When you talk about like at a natural level, as a coach or as, if you're like a CEO of a business or you're, whatever it is, if you're going to do a good job, you're going to step on people's toes. Mm-hmm. You're going to hurt people's feelings, not in a mean way, but you have to get onto people. You have to redirect people. You have to correct people. You have to, all that stuff. And people don't like that.
No.
But you have to have a backbone in order to be a good leader. The same way in the spiritual sense, when you grow spiritually, you are going to outgrow other people, and they're not going to like you for that because they're going to realize, hey, I'm not on his level. And I know that sounds really conceited and really prideful, but that's not what I'm trying to be. When you begin to outgrow people begin to see and they begin to realize, hey, I'm not putting in the work this guy's putting in. Mm-hmm. I'm not spiritually disciplining myself. So instead of me doing that, I would rather just pull him down. Right. And you begin to have to pull yourself away from these people. Not in a, hey, get the heck away from me, I'm too good for you kind of sense. It's like, no, I'm in a different place than you are. And it can become, true leadership can become very lonely.
Yep. And that's where you have to, as a leader, be able to, have the gift of discernment. You have to know what people are going to bring you up, people that are going to bring you down. You have to realize that some people are there for a season. Yep. They are meant to carry you through that time. And then if they let you go, they let you go. Like you said, leadership is a lonely place. And sometimes we lose people along the way.
That's right. So I'd really like to get into like some of these amendments here in Missouri in some of the places that they can find. They're like, maybe if you're in a different state or maybe if you are in Missouri here where we're at, finding, places where you can look up and figure out what you're voting for, who you're voting for. Look up like the amendments. Don't go in blind. Don't go in blind to these amendments. Know what they are. Know what they represent. Know what your decision is going to affect when you go in to vote for this stuff. Because this we should never do this lightheartedly. This is the way that God set up America for a reason. Mm-hmm. And that reason is because it's supposed to be ran by the people. If we take our job lightheartedly, like we have for so many years, I shouldn't even say so many years, so many decades. If we take our job lightly, then we're not going to be able to perform the way that we're supposed to. So we're going to take a little break. When we come back, we're going to talk about some websites where you can find your ballots, find who you're voting for, what you're voting for. Maybe you have some amendments. We're going to talk about all that. Then we're going to talk about a couple of political issues. We'll be right back with you.
This portion of Real Men Talk is brought to you by the Jeweler's Bench. They are a full-service jewelry store offering many styles of gold, silver, diamonds, and gemstones. And all jewelry repair is done in-house so you can get your treasured pieces back as soon as possible. They are also a licensed Citizen Watch dealer. Make sure to visit them today at 1353 North Westwood or call 573-686-1522. Call or stop in and thank them for bringing you Real Men Talk.
If you want to join in the conversation, join us on Thursday nights at 6:30 p.m. We gather with other like-minded Christian brothers to discuss hard-hitting topics that affect men on a daily basis and use a biblical approach to overcome common strongholds that affect our families. We show men the importance of being the spiritual leader of their home and what it means to be a real man in the eyes of Christ. Join us at the Palace of Praise, located at 1400 Herschel Best Boulevard in Poplar Bluff, Missouri. We meet in room 400 every Thursday. Come be a part of the discussion.
The power is coming. John Jacobs and the Power Team are coming to the Palace of Praise Church in Poplar Bluff, Missouri. Join the Power Team as they bring extraordinary acts of strength and courage by bending steel, ripping through thick phone books, and breaking handcuffs, all while showing what Christ can do in your life. Join us for a special day of services on Sunday, October 16th at 10:30 a.m. and 6 p.m. as John Jacobs brings a message of hope and the Power Team shows what God can do through mighty feats of strength. There is no admission, but seating will be limited. Come join us for a special day of services with John Jacobs and the Power Team. Sunday, October 16th for 2 services, 10:30 a.m. and 6 p.m. at the Palace of Praise Church, located at 1400 Herschel Best Boulevard in Poplar Bluff. For more information, contact the church office at 573-785-4232. The power is coming.
This portion of the Real Men Talk is brought to you by R.L. Persons Construction. For over 29 years, they have been a regional leader completing projects that include private, municipal, state, and federal agencies of all types. From mass grading, utilities, concrete of all types, to buildings both conventional and pre-engineered steel. You can expect excellence in all aspects of their finished work. Contact them today at 573-686-1323 and let them know you appreciate them bringing you Real Men Talk. If you have a question about this week's show, please drop us an email to realmen@palaceofpraise.com. We would love to hear from you. And now back to the show with Anthony Kernut.
All right, guys, welcome back. So we're going to talk about some of these websites. I want to just run through a couple of them that I have found that you could use to find your amendments, find who's on the ballot. You can look up what they represent, what their voting record, all that good stuff. And we should be doing our research. I know it's kind of what we talked about beforehand, but you as a leader should do your research. So this first one that I'm going to give a shout out to, this ballotpedia.org. So it's ballotpedia.org. This I found our amendments, and they kind of give a rundown of what each of them are. You've got the amendment here in Missouri. We've got Amendment 1, Amendment 3, Amendment 4, 5. This constitutional convention question, and we're going to get into some of these here in a little bit. But and then I found another one. There it is. It's called ballotready.org. So ballotready.org. Now, this one by far has been my favorite because you can go directly to your district and you can look up each spot and they'll tell you exactly who's running. You can click on each person. They'll tell you exactly what they stand for on abortion, on housing, on taxes, on everything. And then you can go through and you can fill out like a fake ballot of what where you stand while you're doing your research, and then you can print it off. So I printed one off. My oldest son turned 18 in September, so he's going to be able to vote this year. We've already got him registered and all that good stuff. And then for my wife, and I know you may say, you're like, you choose who your wife votes for? I am the leader of this home. I may not choose who she votes for, but I will persuade her in the way that I think is right. And my wife, she's not a very political person anyways. So she really leans on me to have the right answers before she goes vote. She's like, "Hey, who should I vote for?" You know, her life, especially this year, her life is chaotic. She's taking a new classroom. She's a teacher. Everything's different. Everything's changing for her. She's busy. She's doing grading papers and answering emails late into the night every day. And so she really leans on me for when it comes to stuff, because she wants to express her voice, but she wants to make sure she does it right. So me as the leader, I fill one of these out and I print it off, and I'll show her and I'll show my son and I'll show them why I voted the way that I did. And so they can take this and they can, if they feel the same way, they have the right to choose something else. Maybe depending on what it is, they may or may not live with me after that. But no, I'm just joking.
We just have Chip in a little more rent.
That's right. That's right. But
how taxes affect you.
If you want socialism, I'll show you socialism.
Any day. But no, seriously though, we are the leaders of the house, and we have to make sure that, we're not telling them how to vote, but it is our job as men and leaders of the household to make sure that everybody in our household who can vote is educated. There were times in my life that I went through and I voted how my parents voted because, I was an 18-year-old. I didn't know what half this crap meant. They don't teach you in school. They don't teach you the real stuff in school that you need to learn. And I'm a teacher. So, I'm telling you this. But at the same time, I just, whatever they put down. Well, now looking back at how some of the votes that I did, and don't get me wrong, I love my parents and everything, but there are some things I may have done differently because I'm at a different walk in my life. But if I would have sat there and asked questions and talked to them about it, like, it's not a lot of men, they just like, here's this, you're going to go for this no matter what. Okay. Right. But if our kids don't understand what they're voting on, if they don't understand why, and if us as men, like if you handed that to your kids, you could go through and you could say, okay, this is why we're voting for this. This is how this affects you. This is what this is. You're educating them along the way. If we refuse to educate and tell them any of this stuff, they're going to grow up to be, citizens who have no idea what to do, and they're going to vote pretty much how their friends vote because they're going to be easily persuaded. Right. We have to, as men, raise them to educate themselves and think for themselves. Otherwise, they're just going to go with whatever the majority votes. And that's not, the Lord did not call us to go with the majority. He called us half the time to go with the minorities. That's right.
The path to heaven is narrow. The path to destruction is wide. And so I really encourage you to also, as a listener, to really know your amendments, what you're voting for. And I've got some examples of this we're going to get into. But here in Missouri, we've got 4 amendments and a constitutional question. Okay, so in this, let me see here. I wonder where I can get the best description of this. This did a really good job. Okay. This ballot ready. This is by far my favorite because it gives, like, not only does it give you a description of like the amendment, down at the bottom it says, what does a yes vote mean? Gives you exactly what it means when you vote yes and exactly what it means when you vote no. Because sometimes these questions are really, they're just really hard. They kind of trick you in them and stuff like that. So our First Amendment, it is the amendment of grant the General Assembly statutory authority and invest the state funds and also expand the state treasury investment options. Okay, so I'm not going to go through and read this.
That's a lot of big words.
Yeah.
You're going to have to look those up yourself.
That's exactly right. But, basically in this one, if you're in Missouri, so basically they're asking you to vote whether or not they can invest our money somewhere else, in larger quantities, in different things like that. Each state invests some already, but I'm going to be real honest with you where I stand on this. Right, wrong, or indifferent, whatever. Anytime you start throwing more money, anytime you start investing more money, it has more opportunity for corruption.
Mm-hmm.
And me personally, I would vote no on this. Now, I could be wrong. I could have the wrong picture of what this is doing, but I don't know. I don't know of any political anything when it comes to investing where it doesn't get out of hand, where it doesn't become what's the word I'm looking for? Just out of hand, I guess, is basically the best way to put it. Corrupt, where it doesn't become corrupt.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's my little push. Go ahead, Kyler.
Well, and they go through, and it even tells you under the note, it says they are going to these funds and those investment options currently not approved by the Constitution. I'm not saying that the Constitution, hit on everything that we have to deal with nowadays, but I mean, it was pretty much thought over fairly well.
Right.
And if we're going to keep straying from the Constitution, we're eventually not going to have the Constitution. We're just going to have whatever the people think at that point in time. And yeah, I mean, we've made it a lot longer than most democracies have, but eventually we're going to kill the democracy if we continue to stray away from the foundation of what the country was rooted after.
That's exactly right. And so we go on to Amendment 3. Now, this is probably my big one. Maybe we should save this one for last.
Yeah, do this one last.
Okay. All right. So Amendment 4, the amendment to allow the General Assembly to increase the minimum spending fund for police force established by the State Board of Police Commissioners. Okay. Again, I'm not going to go through and read this, but, back in when the whole George Floyd thing and different things happened, there was such a hit on our police force. And I know so many people who are good policemen who have stepped down because they're like, we don't get paid enough to put up with the bull crap that we get. Me personally, I would vote yes for this. That's my own convictions. I think that we should support our police departments. I think they should have the best equipment. Yes, there are corrupt. I'm not saying that they're not corrupt police officers. It's not about that. It's about taking care of the good ones. And our police force is our first line against anarchy, and we need them, and they are important to our society. And I think we should take care of them.
Right. And if you pay them what they're worth, you're going to get more of the good ones. I mean, if you pay anybody better, then they have a little bit more pull because they can get more people in there to do it because they're making a decent living. Yep. Now, you want to pay somebody crap, then yeah, you're going to get crap. It's just how it works.
Yep. Amendment 5. And again, these are just here in Missouri. If you're not in Missouri, you could use this site, this ballotready.org to find the amendments that are in your state. But we're located here in Missouri. That's the reason why we're going over these. So Amendment 5, amendment to create the National Guard, or the Missouri Department of National Guard. Basically, this is just to, if I understood this right, just allows them to put an office in our within. Let's see. A yes vote will amend the Missouri Constitution to create the Missouri Department of National Guard as a new state agency headed up by an I don't even know what that word is. General appointed by the serving at the pleasure of the governor by by and with the advice and constant consent of the Senate. I don't know. This one's kind of. I mean, if you amend the Constitution, again, we kind of talked about that earlier. I don't know. I would have to do some more research on this one before November the 8th. As of right now, I had put yes. On this one, it doesn't raise taxes. It puts Missouri National Guard, there.
Well, it's pretty much just they're separating from public safety and making them their own separate entity. So instead of everything being put under, like, public safety right now is everything like police forces, any type of security that you have, everything's under that. So what they're wanting to do is stray that away. That way they can kind of make their own kind of rules and regulations for the National Guard that is separate from public safety. Because right now they would have to follow everything under the public safety. So depending on what they added into that bill, I mean, the fine tunes of that one would kind of be if you need to vote yes or no. And I've not really looked at what all they added into that. It says it's only going to be $132,000 annually. I mean, that's once again a starting cost, as you could say. It's kind of like building a house. You always start at one cost and you always end it up a little bit more. Yeah. So as long as they're not pulling it from something else to give into something, I mean, if it's already there and it's not broken, sometimes we don't need to fix it.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And I mean, if you get into the fact where, like, maybe they were pulling away from our education system, or pulling away from, our already, public safety department, or if they were somehow raising, if they were going to like raise a gas tax or so, I would definitely be like, no, this is not something that is a necessity to do any of that. If any of those were in there, I'd be like, no. I would have to go through and read that amendment. But all right. So, and then this last one, constitutional convention question, measure to require the governor to call an election of delegates to serve in a convention for the purpose of revising and amending the Missouri Constitution. So a yes vote in this would require the governor to call an elect of delegates to serve at a convention for the purpose of revising or amending the Missouri Constitution. Any revisions or amendments will then be put to a vote for the people for their consideration. So I voted yes on this one. I think that people in, like, Congress and people in the Senate and stuff, that they should be more highly involved inside the state. And I if I understood that right, it would kind of pull them, kind of force them to be in there, in that revising, and then ultimately, we still, the people of Missouri still have the final say. We still have to vote on it. We still have to, so even if they come in and did something stupid, you'd be like, no, that's not right. So you got anything to say on that, Kyler?
No, I agree on that one. It just kind of I like it because it adds a little bit more of a safety net, because I don't like people just going in and having the freedom to willy-nilly change what they like. So that just kind of adds in something else. And ultimately, I mean, you're correct. It says any revisions or amendments will then still be put to a vote of the people for their consideration. So as long as, and a lot of these, they'll still go through, even if we do vote yes. But I mean, I looked at one was passed through, but then right now it's got a lawsuit happening. So the only thing that gets me is this election of delegates, where we're going to get those delegates from. So once again, it's reading, educating yourself about the fine tuning of each ballot. So, but I mean, let's say I'm on that one.
Yep. All right. So let's get to what I would consider probably the biggest amendment that we're going to vote on this November. This Amendment 3, amendment to remove state prohibitions on the purchase, possession, consumption, use, delivery, manufacture, and sale of marijuana for personal use for adults over the age of 21.
After I read that, I kind of got the, when I was a kid, I remember watching Oprah, and she'd do her Oprah giveaways, and it was like, you get a car, and you get a car, and you get a car. Well, this kind of just looks at me, and I'm like, you get marijuana, and you get marijuana, and you get marijuana. I mean, that's pretty much what they're saying here. You know what? Might as well just everybody can have it.
Yeah. And what's sad is this is probably going to pass.
Yep.
And you look at any state where this is passed, and there's not been anything good come from it. Nothing. Employers are having a harder time finding people. They can't drug test anybody so your safety goes down. Your quality goes down. People are less likely to get out and work.
Now, hold on. Alcohol sales did go down in those states.
True.
So,
alcohol sales. Okay, so that's the only good thing.
Yeah. But then you traded one evil for another evil. So, I mean.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong. I don't think it's right to drink either. We can have that discussion some other time.
Right. Not that in now.
Yeah. And so I tell you what's funny about this. So I have a cousin who runs a head shop, okay, in a town nearby here. And he texted me the other day, and he goes, vote no on Amendment 3. And I was like, wait a minute. Like, it really threw me for a loop. I mean, he runs a head shop. Like, he gets most of his sales off of like medical marijuana and, selling pipes. And, I mean, this is what he does. And I was like, what in the world? So I messaged him, and I was like, hey, not that I wasn't already going to vote no on this, but what is your reasoning? Give me your line of thinking here, why you would want to vote no on this. And he goes, without going into too much detail, this is all a big pharma push.
Yeah.
He said this is not helping, because right, wrong, or indifferent, and I'm not trying to condone. I'm not trying to say what he does is right. I'm not trying to say, that it's okay, whatever it is. But he prides himself in the fact that he is helping people when it comes to medical marijuana. He prides himself in people who have cancer, people who have glaucoma, people who are truly hurting, and they're able to, he grows for that purpose. That he is able to help, he prides himself in that. Mm-hmm. And he's like, this is not, even he himself who deals with this stuff on a daily basis is like, this is not right. What they're doing here, the tax, and I love how down here at the bottom, they talk about, the initial revenues of at least 7.9 million, annual cost of 5.5 million, annual revenues at least 40.8 million. Local governments are established to have annual cost of at least 35,000 and an annual revenue of at least 13.8 million. Now, when you look at the overhead on that, 35,000 versus the profit, you think, man, this is going to be great for our state. It's just another reason for people to be like, oh, this is even good for our state. It's not. It's not. This is, and I would love to have a discussion with somebody who believes, especially if you were a Christian man or a Christian woman, if you're listening, you're a Christian woman. If you call yourself a Christian and you say that this is a good thing, I would love to have a conversation with you to figure out your line of thinking on why you would want to go down this path as a state.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, money is the root of all evil. I mean, you said it as I was thinking, and I'm sitting there reading at the bottom, the initial revenue, 7.5 million. The initial cost is 3.1 million, but then later we're going to make 40.8 million. Yeah, that looks great. And then they hit your local governments like, yeah, like we could all use a little bit more money. But what they don't tell you is they then go through and we're going to impose a 6% tax on the retail price of marijuana to benefit various programs. I don't know what various programs are getting at here, because when I read it, it was supposed to go to veterans. So then what are your other various programs that we've got here? Because it doesn't tell you in the actual like amendment explanation. It says we're going to add, it goes from 4%, for what it was, to 6% to put into the veterans program. But this right here says going into various programs. So then they're adding in a little bit more sketchiness. They're going to say, you know what? As long as we can get this approved, I really could push this agenda and this agenda, and I can get funding for that over there and funding for that over there, all because we showed them it's going to be a $40.8 million annual revenue for the state of Missouri. Plus, every local entity is going to, if they also want it passed, and they're going to start putting in different shops and everything else, it's going to be $13.8 million.
Yeah. And my thing is not only, with all this, when we talk about hidden agendas and different things like that, I don't know if any of you are up to date on what is happening in the state of Washington right now. I mean, they're all but anarchy at the moment. And this is kind of where it starts, because I hear the same things. It's good for your blood. It calms you down. It's better. It's better than alcohol. It really gets you. So people aren't as angry. Does it have the effect on you like alcohol does? You could use the stocks for construction use. You could, all this bull crap. That they have been fed. But you look at the gateway the gate that this thing opens, when you go into a state like Washington, not only now is marijuana legal, but they're giving away crack pipes, and they have safe spaces for people to shoot up heroin and fentanyl, and people are dying in the streets and all this stuff. This is what that leads to. This is their end game. You look at. Do your research. Go look at the state of Washington and look at what is happening there. The media is not telling us what's happening. The media is not going to showboat the effects that they've had on this state and how awful it is. People are dying in droves, that drug overdose. They're making so much money off of Narcan in the state of Washington. It is ridiculous. They probably are being supplied Narcan more than any other state in the U.S. And it's appalling that is a necessity. But this is where it starts. They do not want to stop here. This is about altering the minds of the people of the nation. And this is just the political side of it. We can get into the biblical side about how, you should be sober-minded, and how, you have to be vigilant and watchful, and you have to be ready at all times, and, be ready in season and out of season, and, and all this stuff, people are like, oh, marijuana is not in the Bible. But you know what? So what?
The lessons still apply.
Yes.
It doesn't matter exactly what it is. It's a spirit of addiction that is coming over the nation, and it is tiring. And that's what we've done, is I put in these notes that we stop at defeat and we never push for the best. We're not pushing for our kids. We're not pushing for our lifestyle. We're not pushing for ethics. We're not pushing for God. We're certainly not trying to improve the lifestyle that we have for anybody else. And what's super annoying is when you go through, you're right, the media is not going to show it, because if the media shows it, then at some point in time, the people are going to realize this is not something good. And guess what? Every single politician is going to take a pay cut, because the big pharma companies aren't going to be able to cut their paychecks like they're supposed to be doing. You can't tell me that half of our senators and congressmen are not getting some type of cut. I mean, I see half of what they drive, and if you look in the Constitution, their salary is not that much. Yeah. And so, yes, I mean, you've got your endorsements, and people are going to help you and fund you, and yet I get that. But at the end of the day, your endorsement should not affect your moral compass. And that's what's ends up happening, is every time we get in there, it's corrupted. If you can corrupt the government, you can corrupt everything else. You can pass anything. And with the medical marijuana, or recreational marijuana, whatever you want to call it. It's just the newest fad. It was alcohol for a little bit. I mean, I was telling you earlier, back in 1913, they started outlawing it. Before that, you could do marijuana and it was fine. And then in 1913, they started outlawing it again and again and again because they saw the negative effects that it had. And then in the 1970s, they started, realizing, maybe we were a little too harsh on it. Maybe we should change it up. You weren't too harsh. You were looking out for your families. You were working out for your community. I mean, I see students. I mean, they want it in this bill. They're like, they want to do it for adults over the age of 21. Just because you put a limit on it does not mean that anybody under the age of 21 is not going to do it. No, I mean, it's the same as drinking. Yeah. I mean, how many kids do I know that are in high school or that I see in high school who have these parties and then they're drinking at these parties? And you can't tell me that they're over 21 or over 18 or anything, that says that your brain is almost developed. I mean, studies have shown that it alters the brain chemistry as you are growing, especially. Well, guess what? For men and women, your brain does not fully develop until you are 25 or older. And that is from scientific studies. So just because you put the age of 21 does not mean that it's still not going to alter your brain chemistry. There was one study that showed that those who it was Madeline Meir, I think is how you say her name. There was an IQ drop of 8 points in a pool of people that they studied from birth to 38 who had been exposed to some type of marijuana. 8 points is a large drop, is all I'm saying. And then there was another study that was like, actually, that study is false because we did it on 2,000 people and it really didn't show much of a difference. Yes, it does. I had a kid who came to school. This was a couple years ago. Came to school higher than a kite. You could smell it. This person didn't do anything in class. You can't tell me they learned anything from me. So you can't tell me it's not going to affect them later on because they can't function. You can't function. You can't be a productive citizen. You can't be a productive student. You're not going to learn anything. But yet that's okay because, anymore D's get degrees. And so we're going to push them on through. There you go. But that's what happens is we start out with this. And it's like, you know what? We're going to make it 21. And because, that's an acceptable age. So your college age, you should be able to make your own decisions. And we think that that's going to stop people and they're going to listen to it. They're not. It doesn't matter. I mean, you can go to some, it just makes the kids figure out which places in town they can buy it. Right. So they figure it out. I mean, there's some gas stations you go to or some different bars that are going to serve to minors. Oh, but we've got police that are constantly patrolling. Correct. They are patrolling. However, they can't catch everybody. That's just how it is because, I mean, we're looking at underfunding them. I mean, that ballot was mainly for Kansas City, but still, for the rest of us, we can't just put random wordings in there. We have to stand up for what is right. And this medical marijuana or recreational marijuana is just a gateway for the next thing. This is just a starting point because it's seen as all natural. Okay, it can be all natural, but still going to affect you. That's right.
That's exactly right. And, in my thing, when people ask me about drinking alcohol, marijuana and stuff, I always ask the same question. Why? Why do you feel the need that you need to drink and you need to smoke marijuana? And if it is ever to replace the peace and love that comes from Jesus Christ, if you were replacing Jesus Christ with a drug, then you were putting a God in front of him, regardless of the effects that it has on your body. You're pushing Jesus Christ out, and you're taking the matter into your own hands, and that's sin.
Yeah, it's putting God in a box.
That's exactly right.
You're saying that your God's not big enough to take care of your problems. Your God's not big enough to give you peace. Your God's not big enough to take you through your storms. Your God's not big enough. Your God's not big enough. Your God is big enough. You just have to trust that your God is big enough. And you know what? He may not help you right then and there the way you think it looks. Goes back to your boat analogy with the guy on the roof and it's flooding. It may not look how you said it, but he's coming and he's going to save you. But you have to allow him to save you. You cannot try to fix it yourself. And that's what we're doing. We are fixing it ourselves. Step aside, get out of your flesh, get into your spirit-minded abilities that the Lord has possessed you with, and listen to the voice of God. Stop thinking for yourself.
That's right. So we're going to take another little break. When we come back, we're going to talk about some of the people we're voting for, and some of the policies and all that good stuff. So we'll be right back.
This portion of Real Men Talk is brought to you by the Jeweler's Bench. They are a full-service jewelry store offering many styles of gold, silver, diamonds, and gemstones. And all jewelry repair is done in-house so you can get your treasured pieces back as soon as possible. They are also a licensed Citizen Watch dealer. Make sure to visit them today at 1353 North Westwood or call 573-686-1522. Call or stop in and thank them for bringing you Real Men Talk.
If you want to join in the conversation, join us on Thursday nights at 6:30 p.m. We gather with other like-minded Christian brothers to discuss hard-hitting topics that affect men on a daily basis and use a biblical approach to overcome common strongholds that affect our families. We show men the importance of being the spiritual leader of their home and what it means to be a real man in the eyes of Christ. Join us at the Palace of Praise, located at 1400 Herschel Best Boulevard in Poplar Bluff, Missouri. We meet in room 400 every Thursday. Come be a part of the discussion.
The power is coming. John Jacobs and the Power Team are coming to the Palace of Praise Church in Poplar Bluff, Missouri. Join the Power Team as they bring extraordinary acts of strength and courage by bending steel, ripping through thick phone books, and breaking handcuffs, all while showing what Christ can do in your life. Join us for a special day of services on Sunday, October 16th at 10:30 a.m. and 6 p.m. as John Jacobs brings a message of hope and the Power Team shows what God can do through mighty feats of strength. There is no admission, but seating will be limited. Come join us for a special day of services with John Jacobs and the Power Team. Sunday, October 16th for 2 services, 10:30 a.m. and 6 p.m. at the Palace of Praise Church, located at 1400 Herschel Best Boulevard in Poplar Bluff. For more information, contact the church office at 573-785-4232. The power is coming.
This portion of the Real Men Talk is brought to you by R.L. Persons Construction. For over 29 years, they have been a regional leader completing projects that include private, municipal, state, and federal agencies of all types. From mass grading, utilities, concrete of all types, to buildings both conventional and pre-engineered steel. You can expect excellence in all aspects of their finished work. Contact them today at 573-686-1323 and let them know you appreciate them bringing you Real Men Talk. If you have a question about this week's show, please drop us an email to realmen@palaceofpraise.com. We would love to hear from you. And now back to the show with Anthony Kernut.
All right, guys, welcome back. So, we've talked about, the importance of voting. We've talked about some, the educating yourself, and some of the amendments here in Missouri that we're going to be voting for. Again, if you're in a different state, I highly suggest that you look up, you do your research, figure out what amendments, who you're voting for, what district you're in. Like here in Poplar Bluff, obviously, every state's broke up into districts. That's how you get your representatives and all that good stuff. And so we're going to talk a little bit about maybe not necessarily individuals, because it's going to be different for if you live in a different part of Missouri, your candidates could be different. For your House of Representatives and all that good stuff. So, but please, you can find all this stuff. You can find everything about your district, your state at that ballotready.org. That's ballotready.org. It makes research super easy. You get in there, you can figure out everything. You can look at all your candidates. You can look at what they represent their issues, what they think about their issues, their endorsements, all that good stuff. So when you start talking about politics, people, Jesus help me, people make me really angry. They like to throw out words like, or terms, I should say terms like, one issue voters or Christian nationalists. So they're at the Daily Wire, Matt Walsh, when it comes concerning, the conservative or Christian nationalists, he's like, you better believe I am. I am 100% Christian, and I am 100% for this country. And then you look at people like John Cooper, which I highly look up to. I love John Cooper from Skillet. He has a podcast called Cooper Stuff. It's fantastic. He does a good job. He's like, man, he said that term has taken on such a negative role. He said, I just try to stay away from it. He's not denying the fact that he's a Christian or he's for America. He's like, it has just taken such a turn. So you kind of get both sides of it, but I am just the fact that people would coin that term on somebody. It just aggravates me. It's the terminology, the one issue voter. I absolutely am a one issue voter, and I'll tell you why. If you cannot, it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what position you're running for. I don't care if it's county clerk. I don't care. If you cannot get the simple fact that life is important and valuable, there is not a daggum thing that you could say that I want to hear. Nothing. I don't care if you have the best foreign policy. I don't care if you cannot get the fact that abortion is murder and that that we're not talking about women's rights. We were talking about babies that are being aborted. Mm-hmm. I do not want to hear anything else that comes out of your mouth. Period.
Ditto. I mean, that's all I really got to say to that one. I mean, you are taking life and death into your own hands, and God is the author of life and death. And if you are going to literally take a child's life, I mean, it's murder. It is what it is, and that's what it is. And you are trying to play God in that one. Like, you are saying, you know what? Your life is done now. Your purpose on this earth is finished, is complete, and I'm going to end that for you. You can't play God in that, and that's what they're trying to do.
That's exactly right. And they'll use terms like, excuse me. They'll use terms like, well, you're just a science denier. Science. It is scientifically proven. If you go into the science community, that human beings start at conception. Mm-hmm. That's when it is, and then you take that science and mark my words. Anytime something is found and is factual in science, it validates the Word of God. That's the way it is, because again, the Word of God is 100% truth. So you can either look at the Word of God, or you can look at true, real science that will push you towards the Word of God, because what it has discovered has already been coined in the Bible. Okay, so you look at God telling them that I knitted you in your mother's womb. He knows how many heads are on our head. You look at Jesus and John the Baptist when they were in the mother wombs. When Mary was talking to Martha, and Martha was talking to Mary, and John the Baptist was filled with the Holy Spirit in his mother's womb. In his mother's womb. I was listening to a guy. This guy's name, his name is Todd Herman. I think it was Todd Herman. Fantastic. If you've never listened to Todd Herman show, you should check him out. Very, very good. Anyways, he was showing this clip from some CN, not CNN, it's like NBC or something like. It was like this talk show or whatever, and they were showing the what happens to a baby when the mother eats something. So they have, they have like those 3D ultrasounds now, and they had like these 3D ultrasounds, and they would feed the mom something like carrots, and the baby's facial expressions would change as the mom ate. Then like they fed the mom kale, and the Bible went, or the baby went from smiling to frowning, because it has like a bitter taste to it, and you see, they're like, oh, this is so cute. This is so adorable. Look at that baby, but then on the same token, these are the same people that are like, women's rights. Yeah. If she says that she wants an abortion, she should be able to get it, what is going on? What happened between here and here? Like, it is either a baby or it's not. It's not sometimes a baby and sometimes not a baby. Like, it doesn't work that way. You are either pregnant or you are not. It is either life or it is not. You can't play both sides of the fiddle. It don't work that way.
No, it's who's ever given you the paycheck to support it or not.
Yeah, in the terminology,
are paid protesters.
Yeah. Oh gosh, that we could do another whole podcast on that.
I was going to say that's a conversation for another time.
Yeah. And the terminology, the lies that they use. So I was curious. I found this website. This is abortion.ca.gov. Okay. And I was kind of looking through there. And they walk you through the procedures of getting an abortion. Okay, so it's appalling.
Yeah.
Of course, they have the pills and stuff for that, and the way that we'll get to that in a minute. But the terminology that they used on this, your provider, they're talking about a aspiration abortion. Okay, so it says this option is generally available up to 14 to 16 weeks from the last day of your last period. Okay, now notice they didn't say from conception. They didn't say from the time you got pregnant. Okay, they said from your last period, and then it said this is what happens. It says your provider uses gentle suction and sometimes a small medical tool to remove the pregnancy tissue from your uterus. Okay, did you catch that? It didn't say baby. The pregnancy tissue. These terms, the terminology that they use in the lying of these young people, it's evil. Like, I don't even know how else to put it.
Well, they manipulate it. They're going to manipulate it to make it sound the least true, I guess. I mean, least true because, technically, yes, your bone, the baby's bones or the fetal bones have not formed yet. So it is mainly tissue that is forming and developing and all these different things. So yes, you are taking out the fetal tissue. You're not taking out the pregnancy tissue. You're taking out the fetal tissue.
Right.
That's what they do. They make, because they're like, oh, really it's not formed any bones yet. We're not really doing much. Yeah, you are. You were killing a child. No matter how you're going to make it say, whatever your words you want to use to make you validate yourself, to make you go to sleep at night. The ultimate end goal is, yes, it is a baby, and you can use whatever terms you want to. It's going to end up with you killing a baby.
That's right. That's exactly right. We are talking about straight up murder.
My favorite thing there is it says in California, people at any age have the right to independently consent to their own abortion care.
Yes.
But you can't vote.
It's awful. So they'll help you get an abortion if you're 15 years old without your parents' consent. but they won't. Like you said, you can't vote.
You can't do
You
anything.
can't.
You can't bring a productive citizen into this world because you don't know enough yet. But we're going to eventually let you do it. It doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. And I love.
No.
I like statistics. Statistics are. I'm a science guy. So if there's factual evidence, I love it. So in every single time they go through, well, what about those people who are like victims of rape or victims of like fetal problems or physical problems?
Yep.
Less than 0.5%, less than that, were victims of rape. 25, if they go through the breakdown of this, 25 just said they were not ready for a child. 23% can't afford a baby. 19% we were done having children. We didn't really mean to have this one. 8% don't want to be a single mother. 7% of them were not mature enough to raise a child. 4% would interfere with their education or career, so on and so forth. And then if you look at my favorite one, so they did this specifically for Florida. That one was national. This one was Florida. 74.9%. So almost 75%, almost 3/4 of them gave no reason at all. I just, I didn't want it anymore. I don't know. I don't feel like it. Yep. Guess what? At the end of the day, you can pretend to be as naive as you want, but you know how to make a baby. You know the process. And if that is an issue for you, then, and you know that it could possibly happen, then just choose abstinence. You know exactly what's going to happen without getting into all the gory details. Just don't do it. You know that every action has consequences. They teach you that in school. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Well, guess what? That was your consequence. And don't get me wrong, I'm not calling children consequences. I have two, and I love them. But if you're going to see them as a consequence, then here you go. If that gets your attention on the matter, there you go.
Right. Every action has a consequence. Either either good or bad. There's still consequences. You know what I mean? And that's the way it works. And so the way that they're pushing this abortion. So I found this site, and this is mind-boggling to me. Like, it disgusts me in my inner core. It's called abortionfinder.org. Okay, like Car Finder or Auto Finder, or anything. So they'll help you find a place to get an abortion. You put in your, where you live, the date of your last period, how old you are, and it gives you a list. So I was curious, and this may be kind of sick, but I was curious. So
you put in your last period day. Good job there, Anthony.
You bet. So I just randomly picked something, and I put that I was under the age of 15. Okay. Mm-hmm. Which it's heart-wrenching that that's even an option. My oldest daughter, she's 15. And the thought of her being sexually active, the thought of, it breaks my heart. But down here it says some states require people under 18 to involve a parent or guardian when getting an abortion. If you need to avoid involving a parent or guardian, contact this helpline for information about getting a judicial bypass. So it doesn't matter if your state allows abortion or if your family believes in abortion. If it doesn't matter what age you are. If a person wants to find an abortion, and then they give me a list, and just like a car finder, it tells me how many miles away it is. It tells me the address, the website, the phone number. I can even book online a time when I want to be there. And then it goes down through. This one's by mileage, so of course there is none in the state of Missouri now. So from us, Fairview Heights, Illinois, Granite City, Illinois, Springfield, Illinois, and so on. And it's appalling. And they have made this just so easy. So yes, when it comes to voting, I am absolutely a one issue voter. Yes, everything else is important to me. I want you to have good foreign policy. Yes, I want you to be for the people. Yes, I want you all that. But if your morality it cannot dictate whether or not life is important, your morality on any other issue is irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
Period. Like I don't care. I don't care. I don't care who you are. Again, I don't care what position you're in. I don't care what you could be the best spokesperson, the best. I don't want to hear a daggum word come out of your mouth. If you cannot morally see that abortion is wrong, is killing of babies, if your morality is so skewed, then nothing else you say matters.
Yep.
Again, right, wrong, or indifferent, I don't know, but that's how I stand, and that's how I vote. And whenever I was going through and I was filling out this vote ballot, I went through every single candidate because people are like, oh, I vote all Republican. I'm letting you know right now, I'm going to vote for the people that have got the best thing. So I went through. I was curious. For instance, I'm just gonna go over this one person. For U.S. Senate, we have 3 people running in the state of Missouri for U.S. Senate. Eric Schmidt, who's Republican, Trudy Valentine, who's Democrat, and Paul Venable, who is a what is he? Conservative, Constitutional Party, something like that. I can't remember what it was. Anyways, so he has no issue on here on when it comes to issues. There's nothing concerning anything other than housing, right? So I'm like, okay, let's come over. So I went to Trudy Valentine, clicked on that, and I come down, and this is what I see. So you see all these different issues here: abortion, contraception, economic. So she has all these thoughts on all these issues. Well, when you come to abortion, Trudy will also be a champion full funding for organizations like Planned Parenthood that provide a compassionate, quality care for the LGBTQ patients.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to look at anything else. I don't care what her issues on economy is. I don't care what her issues on housing is, her government reform, her wages and job benefits, her environment and energy, her education. I don't care what anything else is. They cannot have anything else on there. I will not vote for her.
Mm-mm.
I refuse. And I'm telling you right now, as a Christian, if you vote for people who support abortion, I question your Christianity. You are either completely out of touch, and you have followed lies, and you have no spiritual morality at all, or 2, you're just playing the game. You're not really a Christian at all. You cannot support abortion and follow Christ. Period. If you disagree with me, let's talk about it. Email me, whatever. I don't care. Let's talk about it. And that's how I view it. And so when I go through every candidate, if Eric Schmidt, who's a Republican, ran for or supported abortion, and Trudy Valentine, who's a Democrat, didn't, I would vote for her.
Mm-hmm.
Because I will not vote for somebody who is who supports abortion. I won't.
Well, and you can't. And even Paul Venable, as I get to say his name. If I click on you and I can't tell where you stand, I mean, he's got one thing: it's housing. His primary objective is protect citizens' lives and property. thanks, great, awesome. But if I can't tell where you stand on anything else and you have nothing else behind you, I mean, he's got a good experience. I mean, you look at him and I mean, he looks like he's pretty intelligent. Mm-hmm. But if you can't tell me where you're going to stand for anything and you can't take a stand because you're afraid of how people are going to vote in general, I'm not going to vote for you.
Right.
At all. And especially as a man, you should be able to tell me exactly where, how, what the issue is, what your stance is on the issue. I mean, if I can click on Trudy Valentine and I can see what her opinion is on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 different issues, and I click on you and I can see one.
Yeah.
No, not going to happen. I mean, at least with Eric Schmidt, I can see where he stands on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different issues.
Right.
But I mean, the whole purpose, I mean, God took time out, or Jesus took time when he was here on earth just to talk to children. I mean, his disciples were like, no, calm down. You don't need to be around these kids. We have other people who are there. And he was like, you know, if you don't have a childlike faith and if you can't go back to that, then you're probably never going to be welcome in my kingdom. And if we can't go back to protecting our kids first, protecting their rights, protecting them even from the very beginning at during pregnancy, then we're not going to get anywhere. As a nation, we're not going to get anywhere because if we don't value, I find it funny though, that she says she's a champion for full funding of organizations like Planned Parenthood, Compassionate, yada, yada. She's all for LGBTQ, but she puts one life over another. She's contradictory in herself, is that this life is more important than this life.
Mm-hmm.
So how as a leader of a nation can you, in good conscience, in good faith, without being God, tell me that this life over here is more important than that life? You have no idea who that child's going to grow up to be. You have no idea what their future holds for them, but you are going to tell me that this LGBTQ patients, whatever they want to be called now, has a more important life. This mother, okay, who's lived their life, by 15 years old, you know the consequences of your reactions. You know right from wrong. Usually about 7 years of age, you know exactly what is right, what is wrong. You are telling me that their life is more important than that little bitty child who couldn't talk for themselves, couldn't do anything for themselves. Mm-hmm. You're telling me that they're more important than that.
That's right. Yep.
You're playing God there, and you are not God.
Yep.
Because that child could have grown up to be the next best thing, and now you have ended that for them because you wanted to make sure that that was at 74%. I just didn't feel like having a kid today.
Yep.
That's sad.
Very sad. James chapter 1. Verse 27 says, pure religion and undefiled before God and the Father is this, to visit the fatherless and the widows in their affliction and to keep himself unspotted from the world. You know, and the whole purpose behind this, is to take care of people who cannot take care of themselves. You know, to look after people who cannot look after themselves, who cannot take care of themselves, who struggle, and when it comes to abortion, us as men, we have the duty to stand up for what is right for these people who have no voice, these people who have no say so, that they can't speak, they can't help themselves, you know, and this is the way God called us to lead, is to take care of those who cannot take care of themselves. And I just think that it is vitally important. When it comes to voting, men, you have got to get out and vote. This is probably not the last podcast you've heard. You'll hear from us about this before November the 8th. But Kyler, you got any closing thoughts?
If anything, I mean, this might be the teacher coming out of me. Educate yourself first. I mean, even if you don't agree with anything that we have said, if you do not get out and you do not look up different resources and you do not educate yourselves, then you don't have a say. You don't need to have a say.
Right.
And the same goes for if you choose not to vote. If you choose not to vote, you don't have a voice. And as men, if you sit back and you decide that you are not going to vote because you aren't educated, then you are choosing to just sit back and let whatever happens, and you are just as responsible for the decisions of this country sitting back as you are if you were to cast a vote. So if anything, go educate yourself.
Yep. That's very well put. Very well put. So we're going to bring this to a close. If you've got questions about, if you need help finding, researching for who's in your district, what amendments, if you didn't catch any of that, or you're having issues, email me, message me you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I would really like to encourage all the listeners also to like and share, comment on whatever platform that you're listening to this on. It helps push it out. The more likes, the more comments, the more shares and stuff like that. It helps really push out to other people, kind of bumps us up on the list where people can find us a little easier. And so if you have questions about what we talked about tonight, if you don't agree with them and you would like to discuss them, shoot me an email. We'll find a time. If you're local, we'll sit down. I'd love to sit down and just chit chat with you and just figure out, where we differ on our views and just to have a good, healthy discussion. If you agree and you're having issues finding stuff, let me know. If you've got questions in general, how should I vote for Amendment 3, or how should I vote? These are my convictions. How do I do this? How do I become a leader that I know that I need to be in my community and for my family and so on and so forth? Message me. We'll get together. We will find you help. We will lead you to the Word of God and what is truth. And know that is the ultimate answer. Jesus Christ. He's it. He's why we do what we do. He is. We talk about politics all the time, but this is a form of evangelism, because if we don't get out and vote, eventually we will no longer have a voice to be able to spread the word of God. And that is the most terrifying thing that we could possibly encounter here in America. And as always, I'd like to end in a prayer. Holy Spirit, teach us to be leaders of our homes and of our communities and of our churches, and help us become godly, courageous men. In Jesus' name, amen.
You've been listening to Real Men Talk, brought to you by Palace of Praise Church in Poplar Bluff, Missouri. If you would like to get in touch with us, shoot us an email, realmen@palaceofpraise.com, or visit our website at palaceofpraise.com. If you're a man age 16 and up and would like to be a part of the conversation, join us at the Palace of Praise every Thursday night at 6:30 p.m. If you don't have a home church, consider joining us for worship on Sundays at 10:30 a.m. and 6 p.m. Palace of Praise is located at 1400 Herschel Best Boulevard in Poplar Bluff, Missouri. New episodes of Real Men Talk drop every Thursday at 5 p.m. You can find us at iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Anchor.fm, Amazon, and more. Real Men Talk is a production of Palace Media Service.
Real Men Talk has been brought to you this week by RLP Construction in Poplar Bluff, Missouri. For commercial contracting of all types, see RLP Construction today. And by the Jeweler's Bench in Poplar Bluff. They are your one-stop shop for all your fine jewelry needs. They also do in-house repair and are your Citizen Watch dealer. Make sure to thank our sponsors for bringing you Real Men Talk.
If you want to join in the conversation, join us on Thursday nights at 6:30 p.m. We gather with other like-minded Christian brothers to discuss hard-hitting topics that affect men on a daily basis and use a biblical approach to overcome common strongholds that affect our families. We show men the importance of being the spiritual leader of their home and what it means to be a real man in the eyes of Christ. Join us at the Palace of Praise, located at 1400 Herschel Best Boulevard in Poplar Bluff, Missouri. We meet in room 400 every Thursday. Come be a part of the discussion.